The strange alien customer. John Miller stood at his small booth in the Galactic trade show, trying not to look nervous. It wasn't easy being the only human among thousands of alien species. The massive space station's exhibition hall stretched for what seemed like miles, filled with strange sounds and smells from across the galaxy. This was humanity's first year at the show. Their booth was simple compared to the others, with just a banner reading Earth Trading Company and some sample products from their planet. John straightened his tie, a habit from his 15 years in sales back on Earth. He didn't expect it would mean much to aliens, but old habits died hard. The crowd of aliens moved past his booth like a river of strange shapes and colors. Some floated, others crawled, and a few changed colors as they walked. Most kept their distance from the human section, which John found odd. He had noticed the same thing all morning. Aliens would look at his booth, then quickly move away. Then he saw it, a tall figure, nearly 8 feet high, moving directly toward him. The alien looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a jellyfish, with translucent skin that showed swirling purple organs inside. Its 4 eyes were fixed on John, and it moved with purpose. John's heart beat faster, but he remembered his training. Stay professional. Smile. Don't show fear. "Welcome to the Earth Trading Company," he said, using his universal translator. "How can I help you today?" The alien stopped exactly 6 feet from the booth. Its translator crackled to life. "You are a human." The voice sounded uncertain, almost afraid. "Yes, I am," John replied with his best sales smile. "I'm John Miller, Earth's first trade representative at the show." The alien's skin rippled, changing from purple to a pale blue. "And you really breathe oxygen? Freely? Without protection?" John blinked in surprise. What a strange question. "Well, yes. All humans do. It's what keeps us alive." The alien took another step back. Several nearby aliens stopped to watch, their bodies showing signs of what John thought might be fear or anxiety. "Fascinating," the alien said. "And terrifying. I am Trade Minister Zixtel from the Methane Alliance. It paused, skin swirling faster. "We have been watching your species with great interest." "Thank you." John wasn't sure if that was good or bad. "Would you like to see some of our products?" "Products?" Zixtal's translator made a sound like nervous laughter. "Human, do you not understand what you are? What your very existence means to the galaxy?" John felt lost. This wasn't how sales pitches usually went. "I'm afraid I don't follow." Zixtal moved closer, speaking quieter now. "You breathe oxygen. Pure, reactive, deadly oxygen. The same element that would dissolve our bodies in seconds. The poison that kills 99% of known life forms in the galaxy. And your blood carries it throughout your body." Now other aliens were gathering, keeping a safe distance but clearly interested. John saw their translators blinking as they shared whispers. "We call your kind the Poison Brothers, or the Walking Death," Zixtal continued. "Most species in the galaxy breathe methane or other stable gases. But you exist in an environment that would kill most of us instantly." John's mouth felt dry. No one had mentioned this during his preparation for the trade show. I had no idea. Is that why everyone's been avoiding our booth?" "Indeed." Zixtal's skin had settled into a deep blue color. "But that is exactly why I am here. We need your help. Your unique abilities might be exactly what we need." "What kind of help?" John asked, his salesmanship instincts kicking back in. "Our world faces a crisis," Zixtal said, leaning closer despite its obvious fear. "Invaders have come. Terrible creatures that, like you, breathe the poison. They destroy everything they touch. Our weapons are useless because we cannot get close enough. But you," the alien's eyes fixed on John with an intensity that made him step back. "You could walk right up to them. You could fight them in their own element." John felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't the kind of sales deal he had expected to make today. You want to hire humans as what? Soldiers? Not exactly, Zixtel said. We need something more specific. Something that only creatures like you could provide. Something that might save our entire world. The alien reached into a pouch and pulled out a small device. A hologram appeared, showing images that made John's eyes go wide. Now he understood why they needed humans, and why this might be the most important sale of his life. The deadly truth. The hologram floating above Zixtel's device showed a nightmare. Massive creatures, each the size of a small car, rampaged through what looked like an alien city. Their bodies glowed with an eerie blue light, and wherever they went, the local aliens fell back, unable to get close. These are the Luminox, Zixtel explained, its skin rippling with dark patterns. They appeared 3 cycles ago, emerging from a crashed ship in our southern continent. At first, we thought they were just another spacefaring race. John watched as the hologram showed more scenes. The creatures moved like giant centipedes, but had dozens of glowing sacs along their bodies. What are those glowing parts? He asked. That, Zixtel said, is why we need you. Those sacs are filled with pure oxygen. They release it as they move, creating a bubble of poison around them. Our soldiers can't get within 50 feet without their protective suits failing. A small crowd had gathered now, other aliens watching from what they considered a safe distance from John. He could hear their translators whispering to each other. But that's not the worst part, Zixtel continued. Show him, Catal. Another alien stepped forward, this one looking like a floating crystal with tentacles. It projected a larger hologram showing microscopic images. This is what oxygen does to our bodies, Kittel said. One breath of it starts a chain reaction. Our cellular structures break down. It's like being dissolved from the inside out. John finished, understanding dawning on his face. Because oxygen is highly reactive. It oxidizes your tissues. Precisely. Zixtal's skin flashed with bright colors. That's why your kind terrifies us. You breathe pure oxidizer. Your blood carries it. By our science, you should not even exist. You are walking chemical reactions. John thought about this. So these Luminox creatures are the first oxygen-breathing invaders we've encountered, Kittel finished. They're destroying our cities not with weapons, but simply by existing. The oxygen they release breaks down our infrastructure. Our buildings crumble. Our plants die. Even our atmosphere is changing. The hologram shifted to show a map. Large red areas were spreading across what John assumed was their planet's surface. Each red zone is contaminated with oxygen, Zixtel explained. Uninhabitable. We've lost 3 major cities already. Our people are refugees in their own world. But what do you expect me to do? John asked. I'm just a salesman, not a soldier. Zixtel and Kittel exchanged looks. We don't need soldiers, Zixtel said. We need your science, your understanding of oxygen. You see, our greatest minds can't even study these creatures because we can't get close. But you? I could walk right up to them, John realized. I could breathe their oxygen bubble like it was nothing. More than that, Catal added, its crystal body glowing with excitement. We need to know how your kind evolved to not just survive oxygen, but thrive on it. Our instruments show that your body actually uses oxygen for energy. It's impossible, yet you do it. John thought about all the basic biology classes he had taken in school. Things that seemed simple to him would be alien technology to these beings. On Earth, almost all animal life uses oxygen. We have millions of species that breathe it. The crowd of aliens moved back several steps at this revelation. Some made sounds that the translators didn't even try to convert. Millions. Zixtal's skin had gone almost white. Your world holds millions of oxygen-breathing species, and they don't destroy each other. No, John said, an idea forming. In fact, we have something that might help you. something that fights oxygen naturally. He reached into his sample case and pulled out a small container. Inside was a simple green plant. "This is just a common houseplant from Earth," he explained. "But it does something amazing with oxygen, something that might save your world." The aliens leaned forward, their fear momentarily overcome by curiosity. They had no way of knowing that this simple plant would change their understanding of life itself and humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Kittle's crystal body sparkled with different colors. "What does it do?" John smiled. "It doesn't just survive oxygen, it transforms it. And if I'm right, it might be exactly what your world needs. But first, you need to understand how Earth's ecosystem works, because the solution isn't fighting the Luminox, it's about creating balance." He opened the container, and the aliens gasped as he held up the plant. None of them realized they were watching the beginning of a revolution in galactic science. A revolution that started with a simple sales pitch and a potted plant. The nature's solution. The Earth plant sat in the center of a massive laboratory aboard the space station. Through thick protective barriers, dozens of alien scientists watched in amazement. John stood next to the plant, feeling strangely proud of the simple fern he brought as a sample. Impossible. Kull's crystalline body flickered with rapid colors. "Our instruments must be malfunctioning. They show the plant is consuming the oxygen." "Not just consuming it," John explained. "It's transforming it. On Earth, we call it photosynthesis. The plant takes in carbon dioxide and releases oxygen, but it can work in reverse too, especially in darkness." Sixtel pressed closer to the barrier, its skin swirling with patterns of deep blue and green. "And you say your world is covered in these oxygen-processing life forms?" "Billions of them," John said. "Trees, plants, algae. They all help maintain the balance of gases in our atmosphere. Without them, we'd have too much oxygen even for us to handle." A new alien entered the laboratory, moving like flowing mercury. Its liquid metal body formed a rough humanoid shape. "I am Chief Scientist HFY," it introduced itself. "And I believe your Earth plant just proved my theory correct." Everyone turned to the mercury-like alien. Even Sixtel seemed surprised by its presence. "What theory?" John asked. "That life itself is the answer," HFY said, its surface rippling like quicksilver. "We've been fighting the Luminox with weapons and barriers. But nature, its body formed a perfect replica of the Earth plant. Nature has already solved this problem." HFY slid closer to the barriers. "Show them," it commanded. The laboratory's main screen lit up with data from John's plant. But beside it appeared something else, microscopic images of strange, thread-like organisms. "These were discovered in the crash site where the Luminox first appeared," HFY explained. "They're microscopic life forms that survive in oxygen-rich environments. We thought they were part of the problem. But now I believe they're part of the solution." John looked closer at the images. They look like Earth's anaerobic bacteria, organisms that don't need oxygen to survive. Some can even break down oxygen compounds. "Exactly." HFY's surface erupted in patterns of excitement. "But alone, they're too slow, too weak. However, if we combine them with your Earth plants—" "A hybrid ecosystem," Kittel whispered, its crystal facets gleaming. "Using both our world's life forms to create balance." Sixtel's skin had turned a deep purple of concern. "But introducing Earth plants to our world, isn't that replacing one invasion with another?" John shook his head. "Not if we do it right. On Earth, we've learned a lot about controlling invasive species. The key is to introduce just enough to create balance. Like a—" he searched for a simple comparison, "like a living machine, with each part doing its job." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. The main screen switched to a live feed from Sixtel's homeworld. The Luminox were attacking another city, but something was different. The creatures had changed. "By the void," Sixtel gasped. "They're adapting. The oxygen sacs, they're producing it faster than before. The contamination zones are spreading twice as quickly. The room erupted in panic. Aliens rushed to consoles, chattering in their native languages too fast for translators to keep up. But John was staring at his plant, watching as it steadily processed the oxygen in its sealed chamber. An idea was forming. Crazy, perhaps, but possible. What if, he said slowly, we don't just introduce Earth plants? What if we create something new? A hybrid species, combining your anaerobic organisms with our plant's oxygen processing abilities. Angstvor's liquid metal body formed an approximation of a human smile. Now you're thinking like a scientist, not a salesman. But we'd need more than just your sample plant. We'd need everything. John finished. Seeds from every oxygen processing plant we can get. Samples of your organisms, a test site, and most importantly, time. Time we don't have, Zixtel said grimly, watching the destruction on the screen. The Luminox are destroying another city as we speak. Then we work faster, John said firmly. And we start small. A test garden, protected but open to the Luminox atmosphere, if we can prove it works there. Kittle's crystal body suddenly pulsed with bright light. The abandoned mining outpost. It's already contaminated with oxygen, but it's isolated from major population centers. Perfect, Enxavor said, its surface swirling with complex patterns. But this is more than just a scientific project now. If we succeed, we're not just stopping an invasion. We're creating a whole new kind of life. One that could change everything we know about biological compatibility in the galaxy. John looked around the room at these strange aliens who were now counting on Earth's simplest life forms to save their world. Then let's get started. But first, I need to make a call to Earth. We're going to need a lot more plants. And a really good gardener. The aliens watched as he pulled out his communicator, none of them realizing they were about to witness the galaxy's first interspecies botanical engineering project. A project that would either save their world or change it forever. The first test. The abandoned mining outpost looked like something from a nightmare. Purple-tinted oxygen clouds swirled through its twisted metal structures. The Luminox had passed through here weeks ago, leaving behind a wasteland that no methane-breathing alien could survive. But for John Miller, standing in his Earth-made environmental suit, it was perfect. Garden Site 1 is ready, Sarah Chen announced through the comm system. The botanist from Earth had arrived 2 days ago with a ship full of carefully selected plants. She stood near a massive cleared area, surrounded by Earth's toughest oxygen processing species, bamboo, Halga tanks, and specially modified ferns. Angstvor's liquid metal form flowed inside a protective suit beside them. The hybrid spores are prepared. Our microscopic friends are ready to meet your Earth plants. Its surface rippled with both excitement and concern. Through the reinforced observation dome a mile away, Zixtel, Kittel, and hundreds of other aliens watched nervously. This was either first contact between two completely different forms of life, or the beginning of an even bigger disaster. Starting release sequence, Sarah said. She pressed a button on her tablet. From specialized containers, clouds of the alien microscopic organisms began to mix with Earth plant spores in the prepared soil. At first, nothing happened. Then the sensors went crazy. Look! Kittel's crystal form pulsed with bright colors. On the monitors, microscopic images showed something incredible. The alien organisms weren't just surviving near the Earth plants. They were merging with them. It's working. Angstvor's metallic voice held awe. The hybrid is forming. But a warning alarm blared. The oxygen levels in the test area were rising, not falling. Something's wrong, Sarah said, checking her instruments. The plants are producing oxygen faster than they're consuming it. The reaction is accelerating. John watched in horror as the carefully planted garden began to glow with an eerily familiar blue light, the same color as the Luminox. Stop the experiment. Zixtal's voice crackled through the comm. Shut it down before. But it was too late. The hybrid plants had already spread beyond the test area, growing at impossible speeds. Worse, they were changing shape, developing structures that looked disturbingly like the luminox as oxygen sacs. We created them, John whispered in realization. The luminox, they're not invaders from another galaxy. They're what happens when oxygen-breathing and methane-breathing life forms merge wrong. Sarah was already running calculations on her tablet. The original crash site, she said urgently. It wasn't an invasion ship. It was probably a botanical transport carrying samples like ours. HFY's liquid metal form condensed with shock. Then we nearly repeated the same mistake. But wait, its surface suddenly rippled with patterns of discovery. Look at the soil composition where the hybrids aren't growing. On the monitors, certain patches of ground remained clear of the rapidly evolving hybrid plants. Something was stopping them. The mineral content, Sarah said, analyzing the data. These patches are rich in, is that copper? Lithium, HFY corrected. A copper-like mineral common in our mining operations, worthless for industrial use, but deadly to the hybrid life forms. John finished. That's why they evolved here, in an abandoned mine. It's the only place with low enough lithium concentrations. Kittle's voice came through excited and clear. We can use this. If the lithium stops the hybrids, then we haven't failed, Sarah interrupted. We found both the cause and the solution. But we need to work fast. Those new hybrids are still spreading, and they're putting out more oxygen than the luminox. John looked at the rapidly growing alien Earth plants, their blue glow intensifying. We need a new plan, not just to stop the luminox, but to prevent any more hybrids from forming. And I think, he paused, watching the interaction between the lithium-rich soil and the failed experiment. I think I know how to do both. Through the observation dome, hundreds of alien scientists watched as the failed experiment turned into an unexpected breakthrough. None of them realized that this disaster would lead to the greatest discovery in galactic biology, and a solution far stranger than anyone had imagined. Get me a secure line to Earth, John said firmly. We're going to need mining equipment, Earth's best geologists. And he looked at the glowing hybrid plants, everything we know about biological containment. Because we're not just fighting an invasion anymore. We're trying to prevent our worlds from merging in ways nature never intended. Sarah nodded grimly, already sending messages. And we better do it fast. Because if those hybrids reach the main city, she didn't need to finish. Everyone could see the blue glow spreading across the horizon, growing stronger by the minute. The underground truth. Deep beneath the surface of Zixtel's world, in ancient mining tunnels reinforced with lithium alloys, John Miller made a discovery that changed everything. The beam from his helmet light illuminated something impossible. Fossilized remains, trapped in the mineral-rich walls. Sarah, HFY, you need to see this, he called through the comm system. His hand trembled as he brushed dust from what looked like a preserved specimen. It was neither fully Earth-like nor alien, but something in between. Sarah Chen arrived first, her environmental suit covered in mineral dust. HFY's liquid metal form flowed through the tunnel inside its protective shell moments later. By all the stars, HFY whispered, its surface rippling with shocked patterns. These are hybrids. Sarah finished. Ancient ones. Look at the cell structure, oxygen and methane processing organs. Perfectly preserved. These creatures existed thousands of years ago. The tunnel walls told a story none of them had expected. Layer after layer showed the evolution of hybrid life forms, some successful, others monstrous, and all of them preserved by the very mineral that proved toxic to their modern descendants. This wasn't the first time, John said slowly. Your world, it's seen this before. The luminox aren't new. They're returning. Above ground, in the reinforced command center, Zixtel and K'Kal watched through their video feeds. The revelation hit them hard. The ancient texts, Zixtel's skin turned pale. They speak of a time of great change, when the very air turned poisonous. Our ancestors called it the Great Burning. We thought they were just myths. Kittle's crystal form pulsed with rapid calculations. The mineral deposits, they're not random. Look at the pattern. Its crystalline body projected a geological map. The lanthanum veins form a network, like a containment system. Sarah breathed. Your ancestors didn't just survive a hybrid outbreak. They engineered a planetary-scale solution. X4's liquid form suddenly contracted. Movement. Something's in the tunnel with us. Their lights caught a flash of blue bioluminescence, but this was different from the luminox above. The creature that stepped into view was smaller, more elegant. Its body processed both oxygen and methane, but in perfect balance. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered. The creature regarded them with compound eyes that reflected their lights like diamonds. Unlike the aggressive luminox above, this being radiated a sense of ancient intelligence. A survivor, Xvor's voice held awe. A successful hybrid, adapted to live in the lanthanum tunnels. The mineral doesn't kill it, it stabilizes it. The creature approached John, seemingly unafraid. In its presence, their suit sensors showed something remarkable. The air was being processed into a breathable mix for both oxygen and methane-based life. "This is the answer," John said softly. "Not fighting the hybrids, not trying to separate the worlds, but finding the right balance." The ancients didn't just contain the problem. They created sanctuaries, places where both forms of life could exist together. Kittle's voice crackled through their comms. "The old mining network, it covers the entire planet. If we could restore it, we can use it to create controlled hybridization zones," Sarah finished excitedly. "Safe spaces where both ecosystems can coexist." But Zixtal wasn't convinced. "The luminox are still spreading above. This discovery is amazing, but how does it help us now?" The tunnel creature suddenly moved, touching its appendage to the wall. Where it touched, ancient symbols began to glow. "It's trying to tell us something," Xvor said, its liquid form shifting to better scan the symbols. "These aren't just decorations. They're instructions." Sarah's tablet beeped as it recorded the glowing patterns. "These chemical formulas, they're like nothing I've ever seen, but they show how to use lanthanum not just as a barrier, but as a catalyst." John watched as more symbols appeared, telling a story of ancient science and survival. "Your ancestors left us the solution. All this time, we thought we were facing an invasion, but we're really facing a resurrection. Nature trying to rebuild something that once existed in balance." The creature moved again, revealing more symbols. And in that deep tunnel, surrounded by the remains of an ancient civilization's greatest achievement, 4 very different beings, human, plant expert, liquid metal scientist, and a living bridge between worlds, began to understand how to save their present by learning from the past. But above them, the luminox continued to spread, unaware that their very existence was about to be redefined by a truth buried deep beneath the surface of the world they were trying to claim. The ancient dance, the tunnel creature, which they had named Symphony for its ability to harmonize different atmospheres, led them through a vast underground chamber that defied imagination. Massive crystalline columns of lanthanum pulsed with soft light, creating patterns that matched the creature's bioluminescent glow. "It's not just a mine," Sarah gasped, her tablet struggling to process all the data. "It's a biological regulation system. These columns, they're like giant lungs for the planet." Xvor's liquid metal form rippled with excitement inside its protective shell. "The patterns, they're synchronized with the planet's atmospheric cycles. Our ancestors built this to maintain balance between oxygen and methane environments." Above ground, the situation had reached critical levels. The luminox were approaching the planet's largest city, their oxygen clouds now visible from space. But in the ancient chamber, Symphony seemed unconcerned. "Look," John pointed to where the creature had placed its appendages on a central crystal column. The entire chamber hummed with energy, and the walls displayed what looked like a living mathematical equation. Kittle's voice came through their comms, its crystal form vibrating with recognition. Those patterns, they're similar to our oldest music. What we thought were just traditional songs. They're instructions for atmospheric harmonization. Symphony began to move in a complex pattern, its body pulsing with light that the crystal columns reflected and amplified. With each movement, the chamber's atmosphere shifted, creating pockets where oxygen and methane existed in perfect balance. It's teaching us, Sarah realized. This isn't just about chemistry, it's about rhythm. The planet has a natural atmospheric cycle, like Earth's carbon cycle, but more complex. Zixtal's voice crackled with urgency. The Luminox, they're changing pattern. Something's affecting them. On their tablets, they watched as the surface creatures began moving in new formations, their aggressive expansion slowing. The blue glow of their oxygen sacs pulsed in a familiar rhythm. They're responding to the chamber's activation, HFY said, its form swirling with complex calculations. The ancient system is still connected to the surface. John watched Symphony's movements carefully. It's like a planetary immune system. The Lenthium network isn't just for containment, it's for communication. The ancients found a way to teach different life forms to coexist by giving them a shared dance. Sarah's eyes widened behind her helmet visor. That's it. The Luminox aren't the disease. They're part of the cure. They're trying to restore the planet's original atmospheric balance, but they're doing it too aggressively because the regulation system was dormant. Symphony suddenly moved to a wall covered in what looked like circuit patterns. As it touched different points, new chambers lit up across their geological displays. The network is reactivating, Kittal announced excitedly. But there's damage in key nodes. The system can't fully stabilize without new conductors, HFY finished. Its liquid metal surface formed complex equations. The Lenthium crystals have degraded over millennia. They need us, John said suddenly. All of us. HFY, your liquid metal form can conduct energy like the original crystals. Sarah's plants can process the atmospheric changes. Tull's crystalline structure can amplify the patterns, and my oxygen-breathing biology can help regulate the flow. Symphony pulsed with bright approval, its body creating a miniature version of the planet's atmospheric layers. A temporary patch, Sarah nodded, understanding. Not to stop the change, but to smooth it out. Give the planet time to restore its natural balance. But as they prepared to implement their desperate plan, warning alarms blared from above. The Luminox had reached the city's outer barriers, and they weren't alone. New readings. Zixtal's voice was filled with disbelief. Something's rising from the deep oceans, more hybrids, but different. The planet. It's waking up. In the ancient chamber, Symphony began a new pattern, more urgent than before. The fate of two vastly different forms of life now hung in the balance, and their only hope lay in mastering an atmospheric dance that had been forgotten for thousands of years. John looked at his unlikely team. A human botanist, a liquid metal scientist, a crystalline mathematician monitoring from above, and an ancient hybrid creature teaching them the steps to a planetary ballet. Well, he said, checking his suit's seals one last time, I guess it's time to learn some new dance moves. The chamber's crystals pulsed in response, beginning a rhythm that would either save two worlds or tear them both apart. The harmony of worlds. The ancient chamber thrummed with energy as four very different beings took their positions around the central Lenthium crystal. John Miller, once a simple salesman, now stood at a nexus point where two fundamentally different forms of life would either find harmony or face extinction. Ocean hybrids are converging on the city, Zixtal reported from above. The Luminox are responding. They're starting to synchronize. Symphony, their hybrid guide, moved to the center of the chamber. Its bioluminescent patterns now matched both the approaching Luminox and the ocean-dwelling hybrids. The creature wasn't just showing them the dance, it was conducting a planetary orchestra. Atmospheric compression in 3 minutes, Sarah announced, her hands flying over her tablet. The plants they'd brought from Earth were responding to Symphony's rhythm, their oxygen processing perfectly timed with the ancient crystal's pulses. Angstvor's liquid metal forms spread across the chamber floor in precise geometric patterns, ready to conduct the harmonics. Are the crystalline matrices aligned? Synchronized. Kull's voice resonated through their comms. Its crystal body, positioned at a relay station above, sparkled with complicated mathematical rhythms. But the calculations show we'll only have one chance. If we don't achieve perfect harmony. They all knew the stakes. Too much oxygen would dissolve the Methane Brothers' world. Too much methane would poison the emerging hybrid ecosystem. Balance wasn't just desired, it was essential. Symphony began to pulse with an intense light, and the ancient chamber responded. The walls themselves seemed to breathe as thousands of years of dormant systems awakened. Now, John called out. Sarah released her modified earth plants into specific points in the chamber. They grew at impossible speeds, their roots intertwining with Angstvor's liquid metal patterns. Cthulhu's crystalline resonance merged with Symphony's bioluminescent pulses. And John did something no human had ever done before. He opened his helmet. John. No, Sarah screamed. But he knew what he was doing. In the chamber, where Symphony had created a perfect balance, he could breathe. His oxygen-processing lungs became part of the system, a living component in the planetary dance. Above ground, the Luminox reached the city's edge at the exact moment the ocean hybrid surfaced. But instead of chaos, something magical happened. There, dancing. Zixtal whispered in awe. The Luminox's blue glow pulsed in rhythm with the ocean hybrid's deep green luminescence. Where they met, the atmospheres didn't clash. They merged in a spectacular display of living light. In the chamber, Symphony's movement became more complex. Through their various instruments and sensors, the team watched as the ancient system used their combined abilities to stabilize the transformation. The Lenthium network is activating worldwide, Kittel reported excitedly. The planet's original atmospheric regulation system is coming back online. Angstvor's liquid form conducted energy through the crystal matrices, its surface reflecting the harmonious patterns above and below. The hybrids, they're settling into designated zones. The balances, it's beautiful. Sarah's modified plants had spread through the network, creating biological regulators at key points, oxygen levels stabilizing. Methane atmosphere maintaining integrity. We're actually doing it. John watched through eyes that stung with both tears and the strange new air. Symphony moved to his side, its compound eyes reflecting the chamber's synchronized light show. We didn't just find a solution, he said softly. We found our future. This isn't about stopping change, it's about guiding it, dancing with it. The next few hours were like nothing any of them had experienced. Across the planet, ancient systems awakened. The Luminox and ocean hybrids settled into specific regions, their presence now part of a carefully maintained balance. Zixtal's people discovered they could safely approach the hybrid zones thanks to the restored Lenthium network. 1 month later, John stood in the transformed city center. Special atmospheric barriers created safe zones for all forms of life. Methane Brothers worked alongside Oxygen Brothers, with hybrid zones serving as natural bridges between their environments. You know, Sarah said, watching Symphony lead a group of young hybrids in what looked like an atmospheric regulation lesson. When you came to that trade show, you were trying to sell Earth products. John laughed. Instead, we sold something better. Harmony. Real harmony, not just between atmospheres, but between worlds. Angstfor, now able to flow freely through specially designed conduits, formed into a rough approximation of a smile. And to think, we once called Oxygen Brothers the Walking Death. Now they call us the Dancing Life. Kittel chimed in through a nearby crystal relay. Its form had become integral to the new communication network. Symphony approached them, its body glowing with patterns that spoke of future changes, future dances, future harmonies. Above them, The sky shimmered with bands of carefully regulated atmosphere, a testament to the day when different worlds learned to breathe together. And somewhere, in the deep mines below, ancient machines hummed with renewed purpose, keeping time to the endless dance of life finding its balance.